But first, would you let a graffiti artist with a faith message come and paint on your wall? The Birmingham-born artist Mohammed Ali, who decorated several walls in his hometown with murals showing verses from the Quran, wants to take his art to other parts of Britain. He's known as Aerosol Arabic. He's being commissioned by the organisation Muslim Hands to paint murals on walls around the globe. And he joins me now. Good morning to you.
Good morning.
Should I call you Mohammed or Aerosol Arabic?
Mohammed is fine, thanks.
Mohammed, how did you get started as a graffiti artist?
Well, it's ever since I was young, really, from the very early 80s, when New York graffiti art pretty much influenced, the cities across the UK, young people kind of picking up the spray can and amazed by this exciting expression of art, of probably the only art form that actually originated from the youth. So it was something that kind of spread like wildfire throughout the UK and Europe and many parts of the globe. Now, there's not a city in the world you can go to when I've travelled and you don't see graffiti art, the colourful form, as well as, of course, the kind of the vandalism, the mindless vandalism as well.
What were you doing back then? What kind of art?
Myself, back then, it was always a message. It was taking a wall space and putting up your name. Pretty much it was always about the self.
A signature.
A signature, your street name or your tag, we'd call it. And we'd put that up onto a public space, and it was just saying, this is me, this is who I am. I'm putting it up in a colourful form, but it was always about one's own self. Obviously, today, the work that I do is evolved from that, but it's just an important point to remember that it originated, the origins of kind of urban street art graffiti was always about one's own self, putting your name on a wall.
In a sense, it was about self-esteem as much as anything else, recognition of the self. But you've moved now to a recognition of God and, in a sense, a downplaying of the self.
Exactly. It's the complete opposite of that. This kind of altruistic, almost selfish expression of one's own identity. I'm almost doing the exact opposite of that, because I'm saying it's not about me. This art is not calling to the artist. It's not about the art. It doesn't matter who painted this. It's, in fact, the exact opposite, which is, don't look at me, but look around you. Look at the world today. Look at everything but yourself. So now my work is primarily message-based, not just speaking to any one community. Rather, it's attempting, at least, to try to connect communities, different faith communities.
Describe some of the pieces you've done for us, Mohammed, when you were offered a space on a wall.
Okay. I mean, whenever I paint in different parts of the world, I've recently came back from Kuala Lumpur and did something there when I was in Melbourne, Australia. Whenever all the places I visit and I'm commissioned to do artwork, I try to reflect the issues that exist in those places I visit. Yeah, I like to understand what are the problems of the city. Yeah, rather than just be parachuted in and out again. I like to really. I think walls can tell a lot about a place. Murals are almost the voice of the people of the city. So whenever I travel,
you're preaching to the choir now in Northern Ireland. I'll tell you, we have a long tradition of murals.
Exactly. That's exactly why I was looking forward to this interview. In fact, because exactly that the murals of Northern Ireland, has been an inspiration for me as well. I mean, I haven't visited them myself in person yet, but certainly, this whole kind of tradition of communicating by putting street art, a message onto a wall, I think is something so powerful and needs to be embraced more so, and encouraged. Wherever that is. So this is the work that I do today. It's message based and it's about connecting people.
Is it message based also visually, or are you using words mostly?
No, visually as well. The central focus is the word, for sure. The interesting point is graffiti started off as the script was the central focus, the word, the power of words and how they connect with one another, i.e. one letter into the other. And you almost went into this kind of abstraction of words, of how the interlinking kind of letters merged into one another. So it was words-based. When I rediscovered my faith as a Muslim and discovered Islamic calligraphy, the word of Islam, the art of Islam was based on also the word. So it was a kind of an interesting parallel here. We have graffiti art, which is words-based, and Islamic art was non-figurative, also based on the word, but one being the word of man almost, and the other being the word of God. So there's some very fascinating parallels that exist between the two. And I think, this is really exciting of how these almost, people might see them as two opposite extremes, but in actual fact, they do kind of marry together quite harmoniously, really.
It's interesting. While you're talking, I'm thinking of the Book of Kells and the rich Celtic calligraphy tradition as well.
Yes,
I'd be very interested to see what you would do at a wall in Belfast.
I would be as well.
What do you think you might do?
I have no idea. I'd like to kind of land in a place and meet people and discuss. And really, sometimes I don't have any idea of what I'm going to paint. Whenever I visit a city, for example, when I went to Melbourne, Australia, I was there for a month, but I took a good amount of time just trying to understand what's the issues here. And in the end, I found that there's a drought of water there. They have water shortage. Yeah, they don't get enough rain. So I decided to put a message of preserving water, and I was inspired by a saying of the Prophet Mohammed, where he says, do not waste water even if you're in front of a large flowing river. So I'd like to kind of contextualize it, really, taking these sources, for sure, sacred sources, but something trying to apply it to the places I visit. So if I do visit Northern Ireland, then for sure I'd like to get a feel of what the issues are first, and speak to local people, maybe even collaborate with local people in making something. That's, for me, collaboration, and is very important, because what I found whenever I painted these walls, the people have a sense of ownership of these walls because they feel they were a part of it as well. That for me is very important.
Well, you're open to an invitation from Northern Ireland, are you?
Well, of course, no doubt about it. I'm open to invite, anywhere really, wherever, but especially Northern Ireland.
Yeah. But how could people arrange that? Because I know with Muslim hands, your ambition is to paint your way around the world in a way. How could Northern Ireland be part of that? Do people here have to organise a kind of a reception committee for you? Is that how it works?
Well, put it this way. Just to clarify, Muslim Hands at the moment, they've commissioned me to do walls around the UK at the moment. I've travelled globally, but normally that's been either through the British Council or different organisations. I've worked with city authorities in different cities. This kind of invitation, I'd call it, is more so for a group of walls, really, of major cities and towns across the UK. Now, certainly we're open to, as far as I know, Muslim Hands are open to considering funding and facilitating one wall that could be in Northern Ireland. But if not, like I said, I can't promise painting everybody's wall. We might, if we have a flood of walls from around the UK, that's fine, but we can't do all of them. But certainly if any other city authorities or any organizations, whether it's faith organizations or whatever, we're always open to kind of discussing any other possibilities if there is anything, because I often work with universities and education institutions as well, who perhaps might want me to just come and speak about the history of graffiti and how it's kind of evolved from the early days. Because it is an art form that is very misunderstood and needs to be discussed for sure.
Mohammed, lovely to talk to you.
Thank you very much.
Thanks for talking to us today. That's Mohammed Ali. It'll be interesting to see what emerges from that.